everybody, and welcome to a live episode from Hilton, New York of Frank About Health. Let's explain something here. What do you do when you're in an open space as opposed to Zoom? A lot of improvisation, and trust me, today we've had to do just that for this particular episode. While it has already been advertised as from hospital to hospitality, that is the topic of today's show. It is a healthcare-oriented show, but our guest needed legal permission to be here, and unfortunately, the time wouldn't have it. He got permission starting tomorrow. Well, that's just not possible. But I have it on word that he is ready to be here at a later date, but at least this episode now serves as a precursor for the type of shows that we will be having from this point forward. So the title fits. Last week I was in a hospital doing an epilepsy show, and now I'm in a hospitality chain doing a health show with Emily Schulman from Talkradio.nyc. So how better than to work with family on this type of transitional episode? I will issue the disclaimer because I think it's necessary for everybody. There is going to be health topics discussed during the show. Therefore, what we talk about is food for thought. It is meant for you, if you suffer from the same conditions you hear about, to use as whether or not you should investigate with your primary care physician or your specialist who handles the disorder to make your own decisions of your treatment plan. We're not here to dissuade you from what you're already doing. These are not the views of Talkradio.nyc or of Frank About Health, but rather food for thought for this engaging hour. Now, another person will be joining us later because that's part of the improvisation here, and that is Jose Dennis, who has been on the show before, helping me reflect on where we've been and where we're going. He's served as a commentator on one of the epilepsy shows. He also worked with Phyllis Quinlan and James Swanson on one of the innovation shows. But he is here to talk about how this particular brand, which will be discussed later, is proving its hospitality in times of crisis, which was the nature of our original guest. However, we know that hospitality involves why we are here, which is still not yet to be disclosed. However, again, it's another teaser for the type of quality programming that Frank About Health is going to disclose. Now, as you can see, we are live and in person. I'm not switching screens today, but I want to just mention to you about the nature of hospitality. Of course, I had to look in Google to find out what makes the word hospitality a derivative of hospital. That's just my own assumption. It's not even the case. However, they do say that in hospital settings, hospitality is about making sure that patients and families feel recognized and that their dignity is appreciated. Hospitality is about taking care of your guests if you are a host. It has the same kind of mentality, although the dynamic is doctor to patient. In this case, I'm the host, and she, who has been a valuable behind-the-scenes person in helping me produce these shows, as well as Logan, who's also behind the scenes, and at the same time is very valuable to me right now in an ongoing project that will affect Talkradio.nyc and the brand we're speaking from. So it only made sense that we would be able to have a health conversation and at the same time, just show the difference between when you go from a hospital and you use your hospitality in the bigger, wide sense. That's my overview. You like it?
Yeah, pretty good.
All right, you see, we're just gonna have commentary. We're having conversation. There's no script here except some talking points, but that helps me ease my nerves because this is kind of nerve-wracking, as you were saying it is for you too.
Just a little bit, yeah.
So welcome to Frank About Health, something you know very much about.
I do, but I am very happy to be here.
Good, good. Can you explain to the viewers and listeners out there why you felt the nerves that I myself do feel every time I'm about to be on air?
I mean, I personally suffer from stage fright, but I've also never been on a podcast before. So I've helped produce them, I've engineered them, but I've never been on the show before. I haven't been so blessed, so.
No, but she's been a blessing to me because I came to her and told her, guess what? Our guest isn't coming. And within minutes, we spun this whole concept. So for that, I'm grateful to you for being here because we have each other's back. Okay.
Very true.
You see how hospitality.
Hospitality.
But no. we're being hospitable with each other. Now, as such, there is a health story behind it. I think anyone's health story, like mine with epilepsy, motivates one's nature in their profession or with families to be hospitable. So we're going to go. Do we have an upcoming commercial break happening?
Not yet.
Okay. We're going to, in the second segment, explore a health issue that I learned a lot about from Emily during the last couple of days we've been working together. And we want to feature it because it is also going to be the primer for another episode of Frank About Health in the later future. But more importantly, I just want to spend the rest of this segment just breaking down the boundaries as to understanding that Frank About Health has been on the air for over 2 years for advocating epilepsy, cancer, diabetes, you name it. We've done it. We've talked about it. There are things we'll be advocating for next week that we've never done before. But that is the reason why we're now pivoting our direction. We want to talk about things that are more cutting edge, that are more into the future of all of our listeners and viewers' minds. And that since AI is going to have a bigger role in healthcare, I'm trying to prepare the content for getting ready for that technology and innovation that'll be taking over at some point. The other things that I wanted to mention is that it's very interesting to talk about hospitality, like with the restaurant industry, with the hotel industry. But hospitality also happens with other organizations for people that are indigent, that are homeless, that have been through domestic violence, that are just displaced for hurricane reasons or whatever. And one such organization that I've actually been asked to talk about by Karen Ross, who was on my 100th episode, is Ronald McDonald Land House or McDonald Land House?
I don't know.
Okay, actually what they do is they actually take homeless children as well as sick children, if they have no place to go after leaving the hospital, and house them, feed them, treat them, raise money for their long-term care, especially if they're orphans or things like that. She had advised me when I spoke to her earlier to contact them, but I only had an hour left to go. So unfortunately, I wasn't able to reach them. Maybe I will for a later episode, but I needed to emphasize the nature of hospitality is not just within the tourism industry or within hospitals and healthcare, but it's within organizations that are there to really bring communities together, especially when they're limited with all their resources.
I mean, I think hospitality.
Sure.
I think hospitality is in most organizations, especially if they deal with clients of any sort.
Right.
Clients or customers, regardless of whichever model it falls under, it's all hospitality.
Yes.
It's all about, assisting, your client, your guest, your patron in having the best customer experience.
Exactly. And it's not always the typical customer that pays for a good or service. It's a customer that's looking for the attention and care that they sorely need, especially if they come from whether it's the workplace or families that are just not paying attention.
Absolutely.
So it can be qualified as hospitality being a solution for people suffering from mental health issues. I mean, we all have talked about narcissism in the past, and sometimes they are the providers of those issues. So who better than any organization that is in that space to be able to be a recipient of these individuals that need our care and our observance and our support. So other than that, I think if anything, I mentioned already, Emily and Jose Dennis will be here. And we are live from Hilton. Again, Hilton will be discussed as a hospitality member later in the show. And while it is obvious that I am not a licensed medical professional, I have been devoting my time on this podcast to be hospitable to all you listeners and viewers out there. So for this reason, if you are watching us on Twitch, LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube, I am begging you, please ask me anything, including what kind of topics you would like to see in upcoming episodes of Frank About Health over the next few months. I know Logan behind the scenes will be tracking any of your comments. We'll read them on air if you have any questions. But this is stage one of what will be more interactive shows with Frank About Health from this week going forward. And I just feel that I'm really ready to start talking about your story, but I'm also interested in that we only have 2 more minutes or so before break. So How do you suggest we handle this part?
I was going to issue my own disclaimer. I am also not a medical professional. I work in podcasting. I work behind the scenes at Talkradio.nyc. So take any quote unquote medical advice with a grain of salt.
Right.
It's my opinions personally and just what I've experienced.
Yes.
It can be used as a guiding tool if it happens to resonate with you, but always refer to your medical professionals.
Exactly. If anything, like what I've been doing on this show, I'm a role model for people with epilepsy, or even from other related illnesses that I've been seeing on my father's case, my cousin's case, or when we were all going through COVID. But she is a role model for her type of illness, which we'll discuss in segment 2. And all we can do as role models, or especially if you're engaged in watching us during the next hour or next 45 minutes at this point, we can just give you ideas and suggestions, and we hope they work for you. But again, it's your choice. You have your own agency, which is what Emily was just referring to. Maintain your agency, your connections with your medical professionals, and do your own research as well. Therefore, you truly own your best quality of life going forward. Are we ready for our first break?
I think we probably should take it just a little early. It'll give us more time in the second segment.
Good point, because we will be doing a lot more improvisation than we've already done. So that all being said, please stay tuned of this episode of Frank About Health right here on Talkradio.nyc and on all of our social media that I just mentioned. And remember, send your comments. We'll be back in a few.
Are you a conscious co-creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour, Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Okay, everybody, and welcome back. And now we are going to dedicate the extra time we've given ourselves, in addition to this segment, all about Emily, her health condition, as well as how she has qualified herself as a hospitable person in her profession, as well as to learn lessons, really. I'm going to be learning. So this segment is truly improvisational. Other than my questions, you will see me looking at my phone with these questions, and you'll probably even see me looking at her. So I know we're not used to this on Zoom, but this is, after all, live. So for that reason alone, enjoy the next segment. Okay, that being said, Emily, first of all, I know I've known you for practically 2 years now.
Yeah, practically, something like that.
But I only met you 3 days ago.
That's true.
That still blows my mind. And I know a lot of that is due to COVID and the restrictions we've all had, whatever. But I have to start off this segment by asking, doesn't the in-person experience give you a different feel or dynamic in terms of any interview or any discussion with anybody.
It definitely does. There's a certain disconnect when you're doing everything online. It works to an extent. I know when we had just entered COVID, I was spending a lot of time online with my friends who were all over in Pittsburgh, Ohio, etc. And I was back home with my parents on Staten Island. And I was spending as much time as I could just glued to my laptop to try and connect with my friends that I couldn't see.
Right.
Even the ones that lived 4 blocks away.
Oh my God.
So, when the restrictions finally lifted and I could actually start seeing people again, I moved out of New York. I moved to Pittsburgh. I now live with some of my best friends. Yes, Logan, one of my best friends.
Yes.
Getting to be in person again is a completely different experience. Having to transition back even slightly to the online is a struggle, something I'm still struggling with in some regards, because I'm just not used to it anymore. I'd rather be in person.
Right.
I've always described myself as a big city, low tech kind of person. I'd rather find myself in a big city with lots and lots of people, and you can keep the technology. I'm good with my books, and
right.
So being
upside down
shunted into a technological everything was kind of like a gear switch, because suddenly I have to figure out everything from my laptop, which is not the best laptop. This is the laptop they gave me in college.
Well, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell. I mean, everyone has known all of my moments of technical difficulty, and that basically I got it 6 months to a year ago. But the thing is that it already is doing wonders for us right now. So she takes care of her technology. Look at that. But
kind of what you got to.
But in our experience in meeting, we learned a lot of each other.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In minutes.
In minutes.
Like
I thought you might. I don't know what height I expected you to be, but it wasn't what you are. I don't know.
Mean my height?
Yeah. I don't know if I expected you to be taller. I think I expected maybe you to be taller, because you can't tell over the screen. It's because for the most part you see people from shoulders up or from mid chest up. You don't know how tall anyone is. So when you meet someone for the first time in person, it's just like, are we the same height? Are you this much taller? Are you that much shorter? I don't know what to expect. And so there's that kind of surprise element in meeting someone for the first time, even if you know each other online, because you've gotten to know them, but you've never known them.
Exactly, because it's like the online world creates a filter.
It does.
Which I guess was good during the pandemic. We had to be apart to avoid COVID. But the thing is that there is a disadvantage to that, because then you do get, like with any technology, Zoom fatigue.
Oh yeah.
And if your whole life is virtual, your work life especially, you can be sure that gig is not going to last very long.
There's also especially for those of us who struggle with mental health issues, the transition back. You got used to being with technology every day and seeing people abroad, and knowing the minute you hang up the call, you're alone, or you're just with the people you live with, or you're just with your cat, and there's no one else, and you have your own space to rest, rejuvenate, and relax. And then you find yourself in an in-person situation, you're like, I don't know how to talk to people anymore. Right. Exactly. And then you're just, struck and blind, because how do I talk to people? I haven't talked to anyone in person in 3 years. I mean, not true for me, but I can't imagine. Well, I can't imagine. I just did.
Yes. Well, then on that note, it's only perfect fitting that when we were meeting and we were doing the work that we're doing together, you had a chance to meet Reatha Grey, who's been on the show before.
She is amazing.
Yes.
She is an amazing individual.
Yes.
I have been very blessed in getting to meet her. That was amazing.
Yeah, but how we had just said that the Zoom world or the virtual world creates a filter. In this case, there were no filters, that you both actually had a lot in common in a particular case.
She was shorter than I thought she was going to be.
Yeah.
If you'd believe that.
Yes. Yeah. Well, I guess anyone who's a TV actress or whatever is always going to look bigger than even the average person.
Very true.
For starters. But she actually told me after we finished that evening that she lost a lot of weight, which I didn't even recognize, because again, it's been virtual.
Exactly.
I saw it a year ago.
You have no idea.
But so that may have had a reason to do with however she may. I mean, I think she shrunk, but she did look thinner, But I know what you're saying. But no, what I'm bringing home is that you both learn, you share something medically.
We
in
did,
common.
yes.
And that's what I want you to expose to the
So
audience.
I say suffer lightly, from a condition called dysgraphia. For those of you who have never heard of dysgraphia before, because a lot of people haven't, it's in the same family of disorders as dyslexia, which a lot of people have heard of.
Yes.
Dyslexia being the one where the letters flip around, and if they're too similar, they'll just swap on you, or you'll mix. I don't suffer from dyslexia. I don't actually know what it's like to be in that mind, but I do suffer from dysgraphia.
Okay.
Dysgraphia starts at a young age with fine motor difficulties. So you have trouble holding the pencil, you think you can't write. I didn't understand why people wrote when I was a kid. I didn't understand what the purpose of it. I couldn't do it.
Huh.
When you're a kid and you can't do something, not because you don't feel like it, but because you physically are unable to do something, you don't understand why other people do it. I discovered why people write when I discovered I loved to read. It kind of went hand in hand to me. Writing, something I absolutely hated and despised and struggled with every day of my young life. And reading, something I absolutely fell in love with.
Because at the same time, would you say that you were dependent on someone else's written word to give you the message or give you the story or communicate the facts?
See, I always love reading, mostly because I'm reading, fantasy or I always forget if nonfiction's reality or fiction. No, fiction's non-reality. I love reading fiction.
Nonfiction is reality.
It's based on reality.
Yeah.
I always like reading fictional books because it always lets you experience an entirely new world. And the way I see it, it kind of just all plays out like a movie inside my head.
Yes.
Which isn't the way it is for some people. Some people will literally just see the words inside their head. And I pity those people because they don't understand the joy of opening a book and watching the movie play out.
Interesting. I mean, that you got me thinking. When I'm reading a book, whether it's fiction or nonfiction, I'll sometimes see myself in a lecture hall, and I'll see myself participating in what I'm reading about. There'll be a visual component.
Right.
Maybe not as creative as a movie, but I definitely don't just see the word in my head. Here's an
exercise a lot of people use. Imagine an apple.
Okay.
In your head. Mm-hmm. Do you see the word apple? Do you see a picture of an apple? Do you see a red blob, vaguely apple shaped with the green leaf?
Well, even just now, I see a red apple that I could probably just take from the.
For me, I think the word apple, and I remember the last time I ate an apple. Actually, I remember, in this particular instance, I'm remembering the fact that I'm pretty sure I have a Granny Smith apple in my fridge at home, and it's been there weeks now.
Interesting.
And it's fine. Last time I checked it, it was still actually a decent apple, and there was nothing wrong with it. It's just been in my fridge.
Oh, wow. No,
I think about things through memories.
Yes.
Which is not how a lot of other people think. They think about things in words and pictures and emotions. I think about things in memories. I'll think back to, my brain will flip up, you, for instance.
Yeah.
And I'll remember, going forward, I'll probably remember this interaction as one of the key highlights.
Milestones.
Yeah. And you just remember memorable moments. That's how it is for me.
Interesting. So
I mean, we kind of just pivoted from dysgraphia to memory. But
no, because ironically, we were having a moment with Reatha. And you know how animated she gets when she's projecting about her phone, like she's getting a text message about something. And she was having a symptom that you've described through the phone. You want to share what that was about?
So, one of the things with dysgraphia is you tend to type phonetically as opposed to, and by that, phonetically meaning the way it sounds. You'll put the letters in the way it sounds.
Right.
Like, I'll spell January Jaruanny, and I don't know if that's right, and it might be, and it might not be. Right.
But your autocorrect will.
Sometimes. And sometimes I'll spell it so wrong that even autocorrect can't help me. But, as I was sitting there with Reatha, she was mentioning how she was having a hard time typing.
Okay. Some
people find typing easier than writing physically, but it's not always the case, especially with people with dysgraphia.
Right.
I've always described dysgraphia as a disconnect between your brain and the page. whatever the page happens to be, whether it's a computer screen or your phone or
piece of paper.
Right. It's a disconnect between what's going on up here and what you can actually put out into the world. When I said it started with fine motor difficulties, I mean, you can't hold the pencil, you can't make it right, you can't make your hands do what you want because your brain is going 20 times faster than what you can make your hands process.
Right. Wow,
So,
no, that was amazing. But you actually showed Reatha that she has the same problem.
she always thought she just couldn't type. She couldn't be a secretary, she couldn't write. No, you have dysgraphia. It's an actual disorder that a lot of people, I don't know how many a lot of is, but there's people out there who suffer from it. It's not just you. So if you struggle with writing and you struggle with spelling and grammar and all of that combined together, you might have dysgraphia. That's just how it is. And if you do, it's one of those things that there's something different about you. You know something's weird with your spelling and your writing, and you've always struggled with it.
Yeah.
And maybe you just weren't diagnosed. I was tested when I was a kid, and they said, she has something, but it's nothing we're diagnosing right now, so she's fine. I tested well.
Yeah.
I was really good on tests, so nobody cared.
Right.
Because I could do a whole episode on the American public school system, but that's not the point of today's show.
Right.
I'll table that one.
Yeah, exactly.
But it was nothing they were diagnosing, so I didn't find out I had dysgraphia until I was in college. My mom used to be an EMT,
right,
or work on one of those transit ambulances that transit
patients. The emergency work. They take you to emergency.
Well, no, the ones that transit people from hospital to hospital or hospital to hospice.
Oh,
hospice to
yes.
doctor.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So both of my parents are big into the medical field, and I have absolutely no interest, and it gives me which is weird because I'm on Frank About Health. But we're not talking about physical health, we're talking about mental health. And that is a completely different ballgame that I have a strange fascination with. I like thinking about how the brain ticks.
Yes. I think that, and this is even from my point of view, being that I have epilepsy, it's a neurological disorder. I think that anyone...
No, you're fine.
Oh, okay. I think that anyone with any kind of neurological disorder will propel them to really be interested in the facts and the issues around healthcare, even if they don't want to be a doctor.
Exactly.
And
you start looking into it because this affects me. This affects my day-to-day life. So I have to know what it's about, because otherwise, how am I supposed to understand myself and what I have going on?
Correct.
And then some people just fall down the rabbit hole and learn everything.
Exactly. No, but if anything, I guess with your predisposition to having parents that are in healthcare, coupled with your dysgraphia, you just had this natural tendency to discover what was going on, and you would research it, and you would help support Reatha in her time of need. But at the end of the day, you were able to articulate what she needs to do. You would become, therefore, like what I've said on the show many times, an advocate of sorts.
Completely by accident.
No, but that's interesting, because if you're not conscious about being an advocate, but then it's part of your personality, I would then just fairly ask you, have you ever thought about being an advocate?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Not a single day in my life. I know a lot more about medical things than I ever care to. I know more about the way the human body works than I really like. And I'm cursed with this knowledge personally. But when it comes to mental health, it really is something I think a lot of people could benefit from learning more about.
Yes.
Especially those people who might be neurotypical, who don't necessarily understand how neurodivergency works as a whole.
Right.
We need to go to break.
Well, it was a perfect segue anyway, because based on what she just said, we're going to cover more issues on neurodivergency and see how that segues into hospitality. So when we return, we will be here talking more about Emily's story, and really that's pure open discussion. There's nothing here written about that segment. So you're going to learn a lot in the next few minutes. So please stay tuned. We'll be back in a few.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on Talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Talkradio.nyc.
What really drives success in business? Introducing Intangify, the show that explores the intangible assets that create value and growth. I'm Matthew Asbell, your host and an attorney focused on innovation. Join me Fridays at noon Eastern to discover how innovation, culture, and other intangibles shape thriving companies from startups to established businesses. We'll share strategies to unleash your business's true potential. Tune in live on Talkradio.nyc Fridays at noon Eastern and Intangify your business today.
Were you an essential worker during the pandemic? If you needed to learn stages of epilepsy, did you depend on advocates? Did you use new innovations to cope with mental and neurological issues? Maintaining high quality of life and keeping good mental health are what we all strive for. I'm Frank R. Harrison, host of Frank About Health, and each week top healthcare influencers, professionals, and innovators answer these questions and more. Stay tuned on Thursdays at 5 p.m. on Talkradio.nyc, and I will continue to be frank about health with all of you.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Hey, and welcome back. You know, it's funny. I wrote about 7 questions for the last segment, and in 1 or 2 questions, 5 of them were answered. See, that is the nature of this particular episode. So I will cover the other 2, but I'm going to let Emily talk completely because I'm getting an education here about how advocacy is actually a form of hospitality. So even though you don't desire being an advocate,
Very true, yes.
you are very hospitable. The way that you've been able to assemble not just this show at the last minute, but also the project, which is still under wraps until a later date. I haven't felt as I don't know if the word is secure or as at peace.
At ease.
At ease, thank you. So there's got to be something there in your repertoire that you would qualify, not as an advocate, but as
it's how it leads into hospitality and probably how it leads into neurodivergency.
Okay.
So some people with neurodivergency get this desire to people please.
Yeah.
It's just the ultimate desire to want to do as much as you can to help as many people as you can. And it kind of just grows out from that. Plenty of neurotypical people have this too, but we're mostly speaking about neurodivergency and that today.
Yes.
But it's the want to help if you're able.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's hospitality. It's how a lot of people find themselves working in the hospitality industry because they want to help. So they find a job where they can help. Either they're physically helping people, or maybe they're just helping you find your room.
Yes.
Some people aren't destined to work in healthcare. I know I'm never destined to work actually in healthcare. That's never going to happen.
I like watching it like on Grey's Anatomy, but I will never have a scalpel in my hands.
I don't even like watching it on TV.
Ah, that's interesting.
Gross warning. When I was a kid, my parents liked the medical dramas and all that. When I was a kid, one of the shows had an anatomically correct heart made of Jell-O on a slab, and I just saw it, and I freaked out. I probably screamed, and I never wanted anything to do with it again. I did a gross warning for a reason. It's gross. It was Jell-O. But to a 6-year-old, it's freaky because you see a heart on a slab.
Yes.
It was Jell-O. It was a prop, but
wow.
It just, nothing after that made me want to go into the medical field. No amount of anything could make me deal with that. It's just not for me.
No, I understand. You know, it's funny. When I grew up, I was thinking, oh, I want to be in business. That I knew. I knew I wanted to possibly do with something in mental health. I was even being a therapist or stuff like that. But I think what really got me involved in understanding all the nuances of healthcare to start out with in my career was the fact that it was interesting how there was never enough money to pay for it. So that business end got involved. Mm-hmm. And then I saw some of the inhumanity behind it, which is another show, another topic, another lifestyle, if you will. But what I did discover when I was actually pursuing the understanding of my epilepsy condition is how vulnerable people felt, especially in being in a condition that had so much stigma.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I was being I guess a fighter more than an advocate, trying to remove that stigma. It was like
you were being an advocate. when you're dealing with or living with a condition that's stigmatized, that people have a disposition to dislike, it's a struggle. I mean, this comes up not just with mental health, but a lot of other things.
Right.
I could loop back to World War II, and I won't. But there's a whole lot of things that are stigmatized that really shouldn't be.
Yes. No, but it's interesting because you're now touching upon another question I've had. I think you mentioned to me earlier in a personal conversation that you're in a generation, though, that's trying to fight to remove stigma on everything.
So, now I'm in the 20s range, which is, it's not the
Gen Alpha.
No, it's the millennial Gen Z area.
Okay.
Except I was born on the cusp of both, so I kind of get to see both perspectives. It's interesting.
Right.
But a lot of people from millennial or from Gen Z, we're looking at taking back work-life balance because we're prioritizing our mental health.
Right.
And we're destigmatizing everything that's been, mental health used to be something that was discussed behind closed doors, maybe with your doctor, maybe not at all. It's something people kept privately to themselves because they thought it was shameful. To have problems going on with your brain, it's a medical condition.
Yes.
Your brain is an organ just like your heart, just like your lungs, just like your liver. It's just another organ, and just like any of those other ones, it can fail. It can have problems, it can have difficulties, and you can treat them a lot of the time.
Yes.
You might not be able to address the underlying problem, but you can treat the symptoms.
Yes, exactly.
And overall improve your quality of life.
Yeah, well, wouldn't you say that COVID kind of forced everybody to really explore what was going on? With anything related in their healthcare or lifestyle or whatever?
Probably. I can't say for certain. I think when COVID was first starting, I was still in that, I'm fresh-faced out of college, ooh! But
yeah,
it certainly has been an eye-opener for a lot of people.
Yes, yes. And for those of you out there, I came back to Talkradio.nyc after being here the first time 8 years ago because I really wanted to expose all of the experience that I'd witnessed with COVID, how it was affecting my father's health in particular, recovering from cancer, how it was affecting my mental health, being that I have epilepsy. But the irony, epilepsy had nothing to do with my COVID. But I guess the talent that I had already fighting for epilepsy made me into a warrior of sorts for fighting for other issues. And so that's what I will continue to be doing in 2024. And knowing with you, Logan, behind the scenes and with you here, I know it's going to be much more fuel with the whole network's backing and moving forward with whatever episodes we bring to the table.
Absolutely.
You know,
we look at the generational gap and how each generation changes from one point to another. And it's really astonishing just how much the generations have changed.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I guess you also pointed out, I'm in my 50s. I don't mind explaining it. Remember, I had a birthday episode a while back. The thing is that I think I'm I wouldn't be Gen X. I would be probably Gen Y, or I'm post-baby boom. Maybe I am Gen X.
Gen X. That's Gen X, Frank.
Why? No, I'm just joking. Just joking. No, but the thing is that
Gen Y was renamed Millennial.
Really?
Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z.
Oh, I see. All right.
And then the generation after Z is like AA or I don't know.
Alpha and Beta.
Yeah.
My nephews, they say they're Gen Alpha. I go with the flow on that one.
Sure.
But either way, the thing is that I was already back then, more so in the 90s. I was back then trying to just uncover the truth.
Yeah.
Always, stop dealing with the stigmas of it.
Truth deserves to come to light. These are issues we should be acknowledging.
Yes.
Because there are, thousands, millions of people worldwide that are struggling with issues like this every day. To not talk about them is to do everyone a disservice.
Exactly.
Because it means people are suffering under conditions that they don't even know they have.
They can say that the media is trying to make sure people are disserviced with not getting the full picture, but it is really up to ourselves to unleash the full picture through our own experience and research, which is what I think you've been doing.
And remember the research from credible sources.
Yes.
There is plenty of misinformation on the internet. Make sure you're researching from a credible source, cross-check your sources,
Yes.
and make sure the source you're checking is actually credible.
Yes.
If what your doctor's saying isn't something that necessarily resonates with the way you think they're going, get a second opinion. You're allowed to do that. You're allowed to see 3-4 doctors and get all of their opinions on what's going on with you because you know yourself best. Absolutely.
And that's what I've been saying to all you guys out there for 103 episodes at this point. No, but I'm just thinking the whole experience we had with Reatha on, what was that, Tuesday? That was Tuesday. It blew my mind. I mean, you, me, Joey was in the room, that was it. And Reatha. It's like the four of us, I felt like we were having a reunion, and yet we only met each other the day before. Exactly. You know, so that definitely is a mind blower. So for you out there who are virtual workaholics or whatever, try to get yourself out there or in an organization with hospitality and really get to reunite with them. Exactly. That's it. Which in fact, I think you saw a Broadway show last night. I did. Okay. No, I didn't catch the last night. I caught the matinee. The matinee. So that was like 2 p.m. Okay. Well, I think we're still good to go. Let me see if I asked you. Oh yeah, I did want to know, in terms of your dysgraphia, there were different stages of life. Of course, yeah. Which stage was the most impact for you? Or did you find that there were stages of what the stage you were diagnosed? So I discovered my diagnosis. It wasn't a formal diagnosis. It was really more of my mom was searching up disorders on the internet. So I don't know how my mom came across it. Right. But she's like, I think you have this. And I read it. I'm just like, this fits everything that's been wrong with me my entire life that I didn't even recognize that was wrong with me. It resonated like to the core of, yeah. All of these things are just me. This is me on a page. And I didn't even realize that there was something going on. Right. I just thought I was a little different. I wrote weird. I wrote weird. Yeah. And the people who write back and forth with me on a regular daily basis with text message and everything, they get used to it. But you know, as a small child, not being able to hold a pencil properly, the only reason I hold a pencil the way I do these days is because I developed a fascination for Japanese culture and I wanted to learn how to use chopsticks. Awesome. Oh, we have a break coming? Yes, we do, but that's in 2 minutes. Okay. And that's just Logan saying that he's fluent in me. Well, you know, again, if we're acting interactive, that's just a reminder to you guys, make all of your comments on YouTube, Twitch, LinkedIn, and Facebook, and we definitely will respond. We're live now, so if you have any questions, especially when we wrap up the show in the next segment, please ask them, and we will do our best. One particular question I'm seeking from all of you is, what episodes would you like to see on Frank About Health throughout 2024 that we may not have covered yet? I mean, this dysgraphia literally happened at the last minute. And it's something that, guess what, everybody? We're going to have Emily come back with Reatha to discuss that very disorder and, of course, make comparisons to dyslexia and dysmorphia and any of the DYSs that exist out there. It's dyspraxic and one other. Dysmorphia is something else entirely. Which that will be exempt from that show. But that is still in the planning, and we'll get to it at the right time. We will when we get there. Now, I guess one final thing, we're about to take our break, but what can you say about your hospitality with Talkradio.nyc? So I work behind the scenes. I deal with our hosts. I deal with our staffing team to dysmorphia and dysphoria are paired up the same way. Dysgraphia and dyslexia. They're similar. The DYS is the similar. Yes, but they're different type of disorders. They're different completely. Yes. Exactly. So you know, at the station, I handle a lot of behind the scenes. I make sure people are submitting their summaries on time. Yes. You are very good at that. Thank you. I appreciate that. I'm double checking for titles. I'm answering questions if people have questions. I'm handling Sam's guests because I mostly work hand in hand with Sam. Yes. So hospitality is definitely a huge part of my job. So that's your form of advocacy. But would you say your condition has led you to do this kind of work, or has primed you for it? Sometimes I think my condition actually makes my job harder. I struggle with writing emails.
If you'll ever notice, if you see the same email over and over and over again, like week after week, month after month, with just like the dates change, it's because I wrote them once and I just keep reusing them because it's the same message. I'm just telling it again and again because I'm just reminding you to do things.
Exactly.
So I use shortcuts whenever I can. I use Grammarly, not sponsored.
Correct.
Or other grammar fixing programs to help with my spelling because I do want to sound professional, which is something I struggle with.
Interesting.
I type the way I talk, which you'll notice is very candid, very calm, very chill.
Yes. Oh, we're about to take our. Oh, did we have another comment?
No, we have. It's a comment about Stephen Fry. We're 1 minute to break.
All right. So that being said, please come back. Well, you will. Please stay tuned as we wrap up this particular episode. Our second guest, Jose Dennis, he was on an Uber, and apparently it is downstairs. So who knows? He might be sitting in this chair when we come back, or maybe he'll just join in the middle of our final segment. Either way, we'll be back in a few. Stay tuned.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Brancu, host of The Hard Skills on Talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on Talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on Talkradio.nyc, I host a program, Philanthropy in Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on Talkradio.nyc.
Are you a business owner? Do you want to be a business owner? Do you work with business owners? Hi, I'm Stephen Fry, your small and medium-sized business or SMB guy, and I'm the host of the new show, Always Friday. While I love to have fun on my show, we take those Friday feelings of freedom and clarity to discuss popular topics on the minds of SMBs today. Please join me and my various special guests on Friday at 11 a.m. on Talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Okay, and welcome back to the final segment of this episode. During the break, we're going over the questions I may or may not have asked, and Emily pointed out that I was going to ask a question if she's in treatment or having medication. Well, we've already discussed, I know she's in treatment. I mean, I'm in treatment. We all have to be, especially if we're neurodivergent in whatever way. My case is epilepsy.
It helps, seeing a therapist or a psychiatrist, it really helps re-examine what's going on in your own head and maybe takes you out of your own equation. So that way you can look at it objectively and see, oh, that's where everything went wrong.
Exactly. But the main question that you feel is important for me to ask out there, especially if there are such dysgraphia patients out there.
I mean, I'm not actually on.
Are you on medication?
I am, but not for dysgraphia. That's actually there's nothing for medication to do with dysgraphia. There's no medical thing that they could fix. It's just a disconnect between how fast your brain moves and how fast your hands move. There's no medication that can fix that.
But it could lead to some psychological issues like depression or anxiety.
Exactly.
Okay.
So a lot of these mental health disorders, you treat the symptoms. The symptoms being, depression, anxiety, etc.
Right.
So I am on medication for depression and anxiety. It helps, regulate my levels and keep me as a normal, sane person instead of someone with the emotional range of a teaspoon.
That's a Walt Disney picture, by the way. I'm thinking of Fantasia or whatever.
You're thinking of a spoonful of sugar, Mary Poppins.
I knew at least the production company. No, but you're absolutely right. We got another comment or question?
That's Logan in the chat.
Okay. All righty. Overall, it's I think 7 minutes before we go off air, and I do know that as we speak, Jose Dennis is in the elevator.
I am going to read this comment. Everyone should get therapy. It's not just for neurodivergent people. It's just generally helpful.
I totally agree, and I have been in therapy since the age of 19, and that is quite some time ago for me. But I think it was what also motivated me to study the field of psychology. And being an epileptic, I focused on neuropsychology. And here I am today, X number of years later, advocating for neurodivergence, in addition to other illnesses, right here on this show. Now, the person that was going to be here right now to help me close the show is one of the business partners I've been working with for the last 2 years, not only on this show, but also with another hospitality brand, which I mentioned earlier, which is Hilton. We are now live from Hilton in Hilton, New York. My 100th show was Hilton, the DoubleTree by Hilton in Chicago. I have done shows at the Beverly Hilton, as well as New York Hilton Club, which was last April. Now, I'm trying to do more Hilton-oriented programming going forward because Hilton has been viable or a true hospitality experience for me to do the show, to come up with the nature of topics. And as I mentioned on a previous show, the birth of my show was based on an experience I had during COVID at the DoubleTree Times Square, where they had turned their entire hotel into an essential worker place of residence. They weren't going home to spread the love of COVID to their families or friends. And spread the wealth. Right.
No.
Although we had stimulus money at the time, but no.
No, there's no good way of saying.
Yeah.
You can sugarcoat it all you want. They were doing it so that way they could keep their families safe.
Exactly. But come right in. I think Jose Dennis is about to join us. Let's share the hospitality. And overall, what we have discovered is that both Jose and I were able to work out an arrangement where they have allowed us to produce this show from Hilton's, based on the topic, based on the guests, where they're located, but at the same time to do what we can to help improve their brand reputation as a true hospitality company that is concerned about the healthcare and the wellness of their members, their timeshare owners, their travelers, their management teams. And we were going to have a guest today discuss that at length, but that will happen more further at another time. We are now rotating chairs to introduce you to Jose Dennis, which you may have seen before on the episode we did back in, I think it was September, which was reflections of where we've been and where we're going. But you also have shared your epilepsy story. And At the same time, since we've covered that ad nauseum, we're not going to discuss his story further because you did see an epilepsy show last week. And at the same time, I would like you to share your experience with this past few days we've been here at Hilton. How hospitable would you say that Hilton has been at meeting your needs?
Well, extremely hospitable. They are very nice, kind in the morning when I leave to go to work. Very cordial, greeting me all the time, and I have no complaints. This is the best time I've had in a long time.
So he's obviously talking from the point of view of a tourist. He is, in fact, a timeshare owner. We share a deal with Hilton Grand Vacations and Hilton Club, but we are working with the Hilton family to create that sense of needed community support and advocacy for various healthcare, senior, and other kinds of family health-related issues. One such campaign that is a little time in the making that we're trying to work on is fundraising opportunities for the people in Hawaii, particularly Maui, those people that suffered from the fires out there in August. Mm-hmm. We have been doing a lot of conversations with various people out there, especially Hilton Grand Vacations in Maui at their Maui Bay Villa resorts, of which they are doing a lot of fundraising through the Red Cross and through other charitable organizations that are trying to do the outreach to rebuild that legacy city of Lahaina. That's a number of years in the making, but hopefully Frank About Health and any of the programs on talkradio.nyc will be able to advocate for that. As you can see, we've already done that by creating the narrative through this episode with Emily and Logan behind the scenes. And here, Jose and I are giving you a preview of the nature of the Frank About Health podcast going forward. So next week, we have a very special episode that has already been pre-produced and is going to have a lot of medical advocacy behind. It is going to talk about a neurodivergency of another member of the Talkradio.nyc family. It is about dissociative identity disorder. It is not from Hilton, but it is from a hospital. So, hey, we're meeting the true narrative of this episode. But I implore all of you out there, especially on social media, to be aware of all your questions and all your comments. This is going to be a very informative, narrative discussion. And from the initial feedback I'm getting, there'll be a lot of eyeballs watching this program. So that being said, please stay tuned for that next week. But tomorrow's shows include at 10 o'clock, Philanthropy in Focus with Tommy D, 11 o'clock, Steve Fry's Always Friday, 12 o'clock, Intangify with Matthew Asbell. Next Tuesday, you'll see The Hard Skills with Mira Branku. And on Thursday, after the Conscious Consultant Hour, you will see that with Sam Leibowitz. You will be seeing that special DID episode right here on Frank About Health and with another member of the Talkradio.nyc family. So please stay tuned for all of that. Have a wonderful weekend. Thank you, Logan, Emily, Joey, and thank all the improvisational skills we've all had to muster up to put this show together at the last minute. I'm very grateful to all of you who've stayed with us and have learned another aspect of what we're going to talk about on the show. So we're signing off now. Take care. See you next week.